Good.
Yes.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening. It's nice to be with you. Thank you for coming this evening. We look forward to receiving comments from those that have signed up on the sign-up sheet. We're going to begin first by hearing some words from Dr. Jean Sumner, who is the Dean of the Mercer Medical School, and I will say with just a little bit of pride as a Mercer graduate, a double bear, I am really pleased that we are here in Macon. I'm pleased that we're here at Mercer University. Dr. Sumner, thank you for your leadership with Mercer's Medical School, and I know you had a few comments you wanted to share with the committee members as well as the public.
I just want to welcome you to Mercer University and the School of Medicine, and thank you for your support. Maybe I'm not talking into it.
That's it. There we go.
Most of you may not know that though we're a private university, we're state funded. Our mission is rural and underserved populations in the state. We take that mission as a sacred trust. We're a little different in that we only accept Georgians, and we preferentially accept young Georgians from areas in the most need. So we're serious about the mission. One thing that we're very grateful for is to house the Georgia Rural Health Innovation Center, which is on the end of this building. You're welcome to walk through if you'd like. And it's something that the state legislature funded to help look for sustainable solutions in rural health. We have a lot of things going on there, but the message I'd like to give is we are available to help any rural community. We work with all the medical schools in Georgia and anybody interested in improving the health of Georgians. A few projects is we just finished a Hancock County vaccine hesitancy project that will continue. We are giving out small grants to communities or organizations, and we're going with that grant to show you how to write a bigger grant in rural communities. So we're glad to help on that. We're doing a mental health project in Ben Hill County, and we also were asked to train the rural hospitals, the administration and the boards and the rural hospitals. I'm proud to say we trained 100% of them in a pandemic. And we're now recertifying some of them. So we take that obligation very seriously. I'm very proud to house that institution. So thank you, all of you, for supporting us. And if we can help Georgia in any way, you know that we will do our very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Sumner. All right, with that, then, I will call to order the joint meeting of the Senate Reapportionment and Redistricting and the House Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment Committees. We're going to begin this hearing, as we do all our legislative hearings at the Capitol, with a word of prayer. And I'd like to ask one of the members of our local delegation, Representative and Chairman Robert Dickey, if he would please come forward and open us with a prayer.
Thank you. Let us bow our heads for prayer. Father, we just thank you for bringing us together here in this place today. Just be with this committee as they hear testimony, and just be with those who present it. Just let us be cognizant of each and every one, and just give them the wisdom and the understanding to go forward with this committee. We just thank you for the blessings you've given this state, and just we just thank you for it. It's just just bring us together. We have so much in common and so much good in this state, and we just thank you for blessing the citizens and the businesses and each and every one in this state. Just thank you for Mercer and the great job that they do here in Middle Georgia and all their education endeavors. Just again, just thank you for the protection and love that you bestow upon us each and every day. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chairman Dickey. All right. I'm glad to welcome you to this hearing. Seated to my left is Chairman Bonnie Rich. She chairs the House Redistricting Committee, and she and I are co-chairing these hearings that we have been conducting around the state. I'm going to begin by introducing a couple of folks to my right and some of my Senate colleagues. Senator Harold Jones to my right, Senator Tanya Anderson, and the Minority Leader, Senator Gloria Butler, is to my right. I don't think I have any other senators with us this evening. If I do, raise your hand and I'll be glad to recognize you. And speaking of that, I am going to try to not put my foot in my mouth and recognize local folks, because this is my hometown. As soon as I start doing that, I'm going to leave somebody out, and I'll make somebody mad with me as we begin this. So for all the folks that are here, thank you, regardless of what role you play with regard to local politics or public service. Thank you for being here. So why are we here? We want to be sure that we are hearing from the public in addition to the elected officials. And we're going to be doing that through a couple of different ways to gather information. First, this is the 9th of 11 public hearings that we have had around the state. I want to thank the dedicated public servants that are on the stage with me tonight. These are members of the House and the Senate redistricting committees. They have traveled around the state. Monday we were in Brunswick, Tuesday we were in Albany, last night Columbus, tonight Macon. Tomorrow will be a virtual town hall meeting, which will be the second that Chair Rich and I have had for the purpose of inviting folks in that don't necessarily have the ability to get out. So that's Friday night, and then we will conclude later this month with a makeup session for a hearing over in Augusta. But that's the process that we have been going through to try to get and receive public input. We've had good interest at all of our hearings, and we appreciate that. This wouldn't work, and it would be of no value to us if the public didn't show up. Based on the number that have signed up on the sign-up sheets, everyone's going to have 5 minutes to come to the microphone and share your thoughts and opinions that you want. You don't have to take 5 minutes. You get bonus points if you don't take all 5 minutes. But we'll be happy to hear from you for all 5 if you want to. As I said, we've got a couple more meetings and one more virtual coming up. We want to hear from the folks around the state about their general thoughts of redistricting and the process, as well as information you want to bring to us specific to your, or in this case, our, home territory. We're also going to be collecting written comments about from various parts of the state. So if you decide you don't want to speak at the mic tonight, but you want information to be given to us so that it is received and goes into what is ultimately our data bank to be held at the Capitol, please submit that information to us in writing. There's various ways to do that. We've got a dedicated link both on the House side and the Senate side on the websites that you can find. And again, our goal is to ensure that we receive all the information that's out there that you want us to have, and we'll put it into a central location that will be used then as we go forward. My good friend Senator Doc Rett from Cobb County is coming in. Senator, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Also, we're going to be continuing to evolve this process, but it is mainly for the purpose of making sure that we make this as easy on the public as possible and receive and document as much as possible so that once we start the work that we will have coming up in a few months or a few weeks, we can do that as efficiently and as appropriately as possible. With that, I'm going to pass the mic to my co-chair, Chairman Bonnie Rich.
Hello, good evening. Thank you to all so much for coming out and joining us here, and also for being such gracious and hospitable hosts here at the Mercer Medical School. My name is Bonnie Rich, and I represent a portion of Gwinnett County, which is in the northeastern suburbs of the city of Atlanta. And I'm joined with you here on the stage with other members of the redistricting committee from the House. We have traveled all across the state. As you just heard, we've been on our southern tour this week. We have also been in the city of Atlanta. We have been in the suburbs of Atlanta. We have been in the mountains of Georgia, and we have been on the coast through the plains, and here we are now in beautiful Macon. So thank you all for having us here. You have some of your local elected delegation here. You heard from Representative and Chairman Robert Dickey, who opened us in prayer. We also have Representative Kim Schofield with us this evening, and we have our newest member, Representative Lisa Hagan. We are very fortunate to have her in the House, and you all are very fortunate to have her up at the Capitol representing you. So thank you all again. I wish that I could tell you the question that everyone wants the answer to, and that is when we will have our special session for redistricting. Unfortunately, that is still uncertain because the federal government has extended the deadline for themselves to provide the census data. It typically is provided in March during these redistricting years, but the latest expectation that we have been given is September 30th to have the full data. So we're going to be working on an extremely compressed timeline here in order to get through the whole process, to get the maps drawn and to have a special session to approve the maps. But this is the first step in the process, the public hearing. This is when we need to hear from you. This is when we can be the busiest. And we also are going to be having some committee meetings once we finish this process. Each of the Senate and the House committees will meet in order to adopt our rules and our guidelines for redistricting. And hopefully by then, the federal government will not extend it again and will get us the data that we need to draw the maps. Let's see. So tonight, the way that we're going to do things here is we are going to watch a video that our media services department has prepared that gives a really good basic overview of the reapportionment and redistricting process. And after that, we will hear from each one of you. Politicians often like to hear themselves talk, but that is not going to be the case here tonight. The whole purpose of this tour is to devote as much time as possible to hear from you all about your communities, from you who live here, because you know it best. So that's what we're going to do. We're not here to ask you any questions or to answer any questions or to give any speeches. We want to hear what you have to say to us. With that, if we could cue the video, and then we'll proceed from there.
Every 10 years following the decennial census, the process of redistricting begins all over our country. Let's take a look at what that redistricting is and what else we need to know before we begin this process in the state of Georgia.
My name is Gina Wright, and I'm the Executive Director of the Office of Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment. We are a nonpartisan joint office of the Georgia General Assembly, and we serve both the House and the Senate.
What is redistricting?
As the population in our state grows, the number of people in each district must be adjusted so that the population in each district is as close to equal as practicable. This is done by redistricting, or modifying the boundary lines of the districts. In Georgia, our new 2020 census resident population total is 10,711,908 people. Because of this population increase, each of our 14 congressional districts will need to adjust to have 765,136 people in them. At the state level, our legislative branch of government has 56 state senators and 180 representatives in the state house, elected by districts. State Senate districts will be redrawn to now include around 191,284 people. State House districts will also need to increase in population size to around 59,511 people. In the Georgia General Assembly, there is a standing committee on redistricting in both the House and the Senate. Each committee has a chairman.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Rich. I'm chairman of the Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment Committee in the State House. I've served in that capacity since 2019. Since 2018, I have represented District 97, which includes parts of Duluth, Suwannee, and Sugar Hill in Gwinnett County.
Hello, I'm State Senator John F Kennedy, and I represent the 18th District in the State Senate, which includes all of Monroe, Peach, Crawford, and Upson counties, and part of Bibb County and Houston County. I also am chairman of the Senate Redistricting and Reapportionment Committee.
What is reapportionment, and how is it different from redistricting?
The term apportionment is the act of dividing and allocating representation proportionally. The United States Constitution requires that all 435 House districts shall be apportioned among the 50 states based on population from each decennial census. There is a guarantee of at least one seat per state in the United States House, and a method of equal proportions determines how the other 385 are distributed. Every 10 years, states may gain or lose congressional districts based on how they gained or lost population in comparison to other states based on data from the decennial census.
The state of Georgia presently has 14 seats in the U.S. House, and the 2010 census resulted in a gain of one new seat for the state following an increase of 2 new districts in 2000. It's common to interchange the term reapportionment with the term redistricting, but the two terms really don't mean the same thing. Reapportionment only occurs at the federal level when U.S. House districts are distributed amongst the states. Even with a gain of over 1 million people in Georgia over the past decade, Georgia will continue to have 14 congressional districts.
When does redistricting take place?
Traditionally, the governor of Georgia issues a call for a special legislative session in late summer or early fall following the arrival of the new census data. The sole purpose of this session is to adopt newly redrawn maps for all statewide district plans and may also include new maps for local county commission or school board districts. The session occurs so that all county election officials have sufficient time to update voter district assignments once the process is complete prior to elections the next year. After the Georgia General Assembly adopts new maps and the governor signs the bills into law, they become the new election districts for use in the next election cycle or on the date specified in the legislation. This year, with COVID-related delays in the census, the special session will likely take place later in the year because we will not receive full census data until late August or September.
What other factors do we have to consider besides equal population?
The first mission of redistricting is to ensure that districts are roughly equal to each other. Equalizing population ensures that each individual's vote counts the same toward their representatives. But equal population is only one part of the puzzle.
Maps must also comply with the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and traditional principles of redistricting, like ensuring communities of interest are represented, avoiding major changes to existing representation in the legislature, and keeping local government jurisdictions whole. Those legal criteria are what often keeps maps from being drawn as perfect squares across our state.
Why do we have public hearings?
The redistricting process begins with hearing from the public. The General Assembly is ready to hear from you about the uniqueness of your part of the state, what communities of interest are here, and what important factors it should consider as we all prepare to redraw the districts later this year.
Thank you very much. We can now proceed with hearing from you all, which is definitely the centerpiece for the hearing. We are going to have first up Commissioner Ginger Morris, followed by Don Betts.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Ginger Morris. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'm going to read from a script because 5 minutes, I want to make sure I get it all in. There's a lot of good stuff to tell you about Toombs County and about Montgomery County. We work together, Toombs and Montgomery, and I'm hoping that we will leave that intact, primarily because I serve as a commissioner, and the other commissioners from Montgomery County are here, as well as Mount Vernon City Council and the Toombs County Commissioners. So we came out in support of Lisa as well as in support of helping us to remain intact. I am actually a commissioner in Montgomery County, born and raised, love it, believe it's God's country, but I am also the assistant superintendent for Vidalia City Schools. And if you know Blake Tillery, I taught him government. So if you think he does a good job, I'm your girl. So I just wanted y'all to have a little background to that. That just says a whole different volume of things. That's exactly right. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about House District 156 and Senate District 19. Of course, very important to us. For years, we have had one chamber, Montgomery and Toombs County. We share a chamber, and we have a lot of things that we do together, and that we believe that we're one community, that we're one vision, and we want to continue with that. And I had a list of about 12 things, just like the disciples. That's a good round number, so I'm just going to tell you 12 quick things as the reason why we want to continue with that one community and with that one mission. The first thing is, Montgomery County was created in 1793. All of Toombs County was cut out of Montgomery County, and that's a little history. And you know, it doesn't matter whether you cut them or not, we're still all family, so we're back and forth there. Both counties have subdivision and cities that lie in both counties simultaneously. So we have them in Toombs and in Montgomery. We had the creation of the Southeastern Technical College, which is in Vidalia, and it helps to train the workforce there. Our young students take dual enrollment classes there, and our Montgomery County students, as well as Vidalia City, Toombs, and the others around us, do attend there, and it is primarily creating, again, that one community, that one mission, and trying to make a viable workforce so that we can move forward. We also have Bruton Parker College that is in Montgomery County as a Christian college, and a lot of our students take dual enrollment there as well. We have 2 local banks that are located in both counties, Montgomery and Toombs County. We have the creation of the Hoopie Regional Library, which includes both the Montgomery County Library as well as the Toombs County Libraries. Both counties are a part of the Heart of Georgia Regional Commission, and that works to ensure that communities have fundings that they need in the rural areas, much like the Dean spoke a while ago about Mercer, and we know the value of that. We have also, Montgomery and Toombs, partnered together to pave roads that are located in both counties. And I hope the message you see is that we do a lot of things together, and it's always crossing those lines. They're almost blurred because we're so much one county with, one community with one mission. Montgomery County has no landfill. Toombs County is gracious enough to help us and serves us in that capacity. We also have the Daniel Baptist Association, which is headquartered in Montgomery County and serves the needs of all the churches as well as all the congregations that are in both counties. The Omaha EMC, who we all love, is located in Toombs. It serves both counties and was recently awarded the contract to lay the broadband and the fiber in the rural counties that we call God's country, but our children do need that broadband and that fiber optic, so we're excited about that, and it's in both of the rural areas in our counties. Our school systems, Montgomery County, Toombs County, and Vidalia City Schools, work together with this legislature to create the Southeastern Career and College Academy, which we fondly know as SECA, and it gives our students from Montgomery and Toombs and the Vidalia City School System to come together and to work on different initiatives, but we start developing that one community, that one mission mind early on, and SECA allows us to do that. And it also lets the systems work together, and it works beautifully, use the limited funds for the benefit of educators. And the other thing is we have the Memorial Health Meadow Regional Hospital, which serves both of our counties. It has board members from both Montgomery County and Toombs County to make sure that all the needs of the citizens are represented, as well as our EMS that we have in Montgomery County. If anybody needs medical needs, they are transported to Toombs County. And last but certainly not least, the Georgia State vegetable, which I know that you know, is the world-famous Vidalia onion, and it is grown by farmers in both counties. And as we put it down south, we are truly one community in House District 156 and Senate District 19, even so much so our dirt is related. It's truly a sweet community, and I hope you'll consider leaving it intact. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If I may, I want to recognize we've had a couple of other of your locally elected representatives come in. Our whip, Hatchet, Matt Hatchet, is here, and Representative Miriam Paris, and also former Representative Bubber Epps. All right, I am so sorry. I did not take away from your time. If we are now going to be hearing from Don Betts, and after that will be Carolyn Hargrove.
Well, thank you. I tell you, after Ginger talk, all I really need to do is say amen and go for the bonus points. She hit everything right on the head. I can tell you from a little different perspective, back in the early 90s, I was fortunate enough to leave Washington, D.C. and come down to Vidalia and work there at the Chamber and the Development Authority. We worked very hard to put things together and get people working together. I moved on, And then by the grace of God, I've been able to come back, and now I'm a very thankful citizen of Montgomery County. And it's been wonderful. I've had the opportunity to be on several boards and work with several different companies in the area. And I can't tell you how important it has been to our area for us to be together and to minimize any roadblocks for us working together. It's been amazing to see what's happened at the schools, how they work together at the technical colleges, and even businesses. And I have the pleasure of working with Altamont EMC that they mentioned. And as you really think about it from the business perspective, they're the ones that employ the people. They're the ones that are putting money in the community and making things happen. We have to be cognizant of what redistricting could potentially do to some of those folks. And again, the EMC is centered there in Lyons, Toombs County, but covers that general area, and most importantly, Montgomery County. You know, you're going to have a lot of hard decisions to make with this. I'd like to give you an easy decision. When you start thinking about the area around Toombs and Montgomery, make it an easy decision and keep us together. There are too many good things going on that we've had happen, and we are really working and striving together. We're connected, as Ginger said, with families, with services, and with issues. And a lot of those issues, we need your help. And so it's vitally important, and I would hope that as you go through your hard deliberations, you'll keep us in mind and keep Toombs and Montgomery County together and give us the opportunity to continue to work even harder. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betts. Next, we have Carolyn Hargrove, followed by Danny Glover. And I have been made aware also that we have another one of our former representatives, Kathy Cox, who is also the current Dean of the Mercer Law School. So thank you for joining us, Dean Cox. And we have our Minority Leader, James Beverly, here as well. Sorry to delay. You may proceed.
4 minutes. Good evening. My name's Carolyn Hargrove, and I've lived in Macon for 45 years. And I'm represented by Senator David Lucas of the 26th District and Representative James Beverly of the 143rd District. Thank you for coming to Macon for this town hall. And I'm speaking as the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Macon. Macon-Bibb County, with a population of over 153,000, is currently drawn into 5 separate State House districts. This has the effect of dividing our community and diminishing our strength as a whole when addressing common problems. In addition, these districts extend far into surrounding counties, which have their own agendas and specific needs very different from those of Bibb County. Our population is too large for 1 or even 2 districts, but even 3 would be an improvement, and they would be better able to represent their Bibb constituents. Our primary concern is a seemingly inevitable process of gerrymandering our districts. As you draw our new districts, please show your work and publish them well ahead of the vote by the legislature to allow time for public comment. I know with a time crunch that might be an issue, but we'd like to see those, the new maps presented to the public so that they can have comments, they can be studied and commented on. The technology to draw districts that the House and Senate will use is publicly available. So I ask you to be nonpartisan, transparent, and fair. Let there be competitive elections without an incumbent having an assured seat because there's no other candidate for voters to choose. Too many of our elections are over after the primary. This discourages potential candidates from even running for office because districts are drawn for an assured winner. This is the case regardless of which party is drawing the maps. Our democracy is too precious to be run roughshod over this way. We suggest using the benchmark set by the Princeton Gerrymandering Project, which will be monitoring Georgia's redistricting process. Be nonpartisan, be open, be fair, be transparent, and give us a working democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hargrove. Next, we have Danny Glover, followed by Alan Snyder.
Good evening. My name is Danny Glover, and I am a lifelong member of this community we affectionately call the Heart of Georgia, Macon Bibb. I am testifying on the redistricting process and why, based on my experiences, it is crucial that the legislature not discriminates against already disenfranchised communities. When I think of Macon Bibb, I don't think of lines. I don't think of districts. Actually, those are the last thing I think about when I think about this great community I've called home. I think about the friendly feud between the east side and the south side. That feud goes all the way back to high school, whether it's the marching band, whether it's scholastic activities, we're gonna feud if it's anything dealing with East Macon and and South Macon. Now, what separates those two communities is the mighty Ocmulgee River. Now, to hear mumblings that those particular districts could potentially be consolidated in an effort to pack the district kind of, upset me a little bit, especially considering the years of disenfranchisement, years of voter suppression tactics that my community has experienced. So I feel implored to come to you today to ask you to keep those communities whole. Those communities are represented by Minority Leader Representative James Beverly on the east side, and then we have Rep. Miriam Paris on the south side. The people know their leaders. They know how to contact their leaders. They know that whether it's those two or the previous folks that stayed or that served before them, they know they have representation that they can count on in District 142 and 143. So what I'm asking for is more openness and transparency in this entire process. Now, I get that things are rushed, but as the leaders of this state, we can't afford to rush this process, because what happens when we rush, we leave so many people behind. You consolidate that district, you disenfranchise thousands of people in my community, people who already are some of the poorest, or home of some of the poorest census tracts in the entire states. So the demographics of the greater Macon areas have definitely changed tremendously in the last 10 years. Primarily, the data from the 2019 American Community Survey indicates that while the white voting age population in greater Macon has decreased by 5%, Black voters have increased by 7%. Asian voters have increased by 27%. Hispanic voters have increased by 13%. The voting age population of people of color overall has grown in this area by 7%. The legislature cannot ignore the context that race plays in the state of Georgia in drawing these lines. For those reasons, this joint redistricting committee needs to ensure that any bill it passes protects the voting power of historically disenfranchised communities. Any maps need to account for the growth rates of minority communities as compared to the growth rates of the Anglo population. The overall population of the state of, if the overall population of the state of Georgia grew by 10, the overall population of the state of Georgia grew by 10% between 2010 and 2019. The number of Black people in Georgia increased by 15%. The population of Asian people increased by 40%. The population of Hispanic increased by 22%. If 90% of Georgia's growth from minority groups and Georgia gets new congressional seats, we should see that growth accounted for and not simply in extra seats for a slower growing Anglo population to ensure that non-discriminatory process is being followed. I recommend this committee follow the Princeton gerrymandering projects and the benchmarks they set forth as to how this state can be fairly drawn and districts can be fair for all citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Before the next speaker comes up, I want to recognize my Senate colleague, Senator David Lucas, is with us this evening. Good to see you, Senator. Thank you for being here.
Okay, next we have Alan Snyder, followed by and then Ashley Bruner.
Thank you. My name's Alan Snyder, and I've been a resident of my North Macon neighborhood for over 9 years. I would like the committee to redistrict my North Macon to be part of the urban part of Bibb County and not the rural part of Monroe. The area where I live is near Bass Road interchange of I-75 and has experienced a rapid expansion extending all the way from Zebulon Road to Riverside Drive. And those of you from Macon will know that. The Macon Bibb Planning and Zoning has approved retail centers, commercial venues, restaurants, hotels, professional offices, a daycare center, a convenience store, package stores, a car wash, single and multifamily housing, senior living housing, and if you're going to have senior living housing, you need a funeral home, so the funeral home was approved as well. We have the traffic problems of any urban area, and our needs are just the same as those of cities. with new demands on water, utilities, wastewater treatment, schools, and emergency services. My current House district is served by a representative whose main constituency is rural Monroe County, and Senator Kennedy is my senator, and he serves quite a bit of rural areas. And this was probably appropriate when I first moved here 9 years ago after the 2010 census, but based on the changing demographics, North Macon would be better served by being part of an urban district so that we can get the services we need and deserve. The first election I remember was the Kennedy-Nixon election of 1960. Some of you weren't even born then. I asked my parents, how do you determine which candidate you vote for? Their response was that you look at the individual candidates, their character, their honesty, their integrity, and the things for which they stand, such as the party's platform. Then you decide whose principles align with your own and who you think would be best for the country and not just your own interests. I've been a voter since 1972 and have voted in each election in 7 different states, Georgia twice. I've based my voting decisions on what I learned from my wise parents. When I first voted in Macon in the 2012 election and was researching candidates, imagine my dismay to find out that my candidates had been pre-selected for me because of how the district lines were drawn. Imagine my chagrin to find that 81% of all districts were unopposed. I wondered if I actually lived in a democratic republic. I implore this committee to hear my voice and the voices of the voters of Georgia and allow us to choose our representatives, not the representative to choose us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Next, we have Ashley Bruner. And when you come to the microphone, if you'll be sure that you're speaking directly into the microphone so that people can hear us on the live stream and in the back of the room. Pick it up. Perfect.
Good afternoon, Chairman Rich, Chairman Kennedy, members of the Joint Committee, and a special hello to my Senator, Leader Butler. My name is Ashley Bruner. I serve as the policy advocate at the ACLU of Georgia. The ACLU of Georgia is a nonpartisan organization, and we are dedicated to protecting the civil liberties of every Georgian. And the right to vote is one of those sacred civil liberties that we have as Americans. So voting should be easy for every citizen, and every citizen's vote should count exactly the same. I've been personally impacted by precinct changes that have occurred without sufficient notice to voters, and have had to notify some of my neighbors that don't have access to the internet, who otherwise would have been disenfranchised. So it's important that the redistricting process is accessible to all, regardless of barriers regarding language and technology. Fair maps are integral to ensuring that all voters of color have the exact same opportunities as white voters, regardless of where they live and regardless of who they are voting for. Demographic changes of the greater Macon area and of the state of Georgia as a whole have tremendously changed in the past 10 years, as you've heard. Preliminary data that I'm going to share again from that 2019 American Community Survey indicates that while the white voting age population in the greater Macon area has actually decreased by about 5%, Black voters have increased by 7%. Asian voters have increased by 27%, and Hispanic voters have increased by 13%. Overall, the voting age population of residents of color has increased by 7% in this area. So the maps that are drawn during this cycle must account for that growth in our diversity and ensure that voters of color have a fair chance to elect the candidates of our choosing. Fair maps also require that legislators conduct this process transparently and meaningfully consider the suggestions and the concerns of your citizens. Legislators must show their work every step of the way when drawing maps and should conduct public hearings again after the full census data is available for additional feedback from each judicial district. Transparency means that all of these meetings concerning redistricting and map drawing are done publicly with sufficient notice and access for all Georgians, regardless of creed, color, or party. These are just a few of the standards that this committee should adopt to ensure that the redistricting process is open, is democratic, and representative of the interests of all Georgians, preserving faith in our democracy and embodying that sacred ideal of we the people. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bruner. Next, we have Rudi Roman, followed by David Sykes.
Hi, and good afternoon. My name is Rudi Roman, and I've spent the past 20 of my 28 years on this earth living in Georgia. I'm incredibly passionate about civic engagement and work with several organizations, including the Georgia Muslim Voter Project, on voter access and community empowerment. I'm here to urge you to keep our communities together, keep this process transparent, improve language access, and increase options for public input during the redistricting process. While it may seem like a lot, a 2018 poll found that almost half of Americans no longer view our democracy favorably. And as you've heard tonight, a lot of people don't know what the point of voting is anymore because their representatives are already pre-chosen for them. This is an alarming statistic. History taught us that without trust and belief in democratic systems, nations struggle to survive. This distrust impacts communities regardless of party affiliation, religion, gender, and race. It's why this decade's redistricting process is more important than ever. After a census count in the middle of a pandemic and tumultuous election season, our communities view these civic processes with concern and skepticism. What you choose to do will impact not just who wins or loses, but also how people view the very democracy we cherish. I'm here today to implore you to draw Georgia maps fairly and keep communities together, like the thriving Muslim community here in Macon. Politicians picking their constituents instead of people picking their representatives is a dangerous practice that may provide gain in the short term but continue to erode trust in the long term. I'm not naive. I understand the political reasoning behind much of what will happen in this process. But a part of me sincerely hopes that you'll see the bigger impact of breaking up communities for political gain. It not only discourages people from voting because they no longer see the point, but it also dilutes the power of the voters and disenfranchises them. I had the opportunity to speak with John Lewis multiple times, and the quote that still rings in my ear is his famous one that says, "The vote is precious, it's almost sacred. It is the most powerful, non-violent tool we have in a democratic society." Diminishing that vote and breaking communities apart threatens the very foundation of our democracy. Finally, breaking communities apart and drawing fragmented districts, as we've heard tonight, makes it extremely difficult to actually represent a district. How is someone supposed to actually know who they're representing and what their community needs if they can't even identify their own district's boundaries because of convoluted borders? It's just not feasible. So again, I repeat with what I started. I urge you to keep our communities together, keep this process transparent, improve language access, and increase options for public input, even with this reduced timeline. The future of our country truly depends on it.
Thank you, Ms. Roman. Next, we have David Sykes, followed by Mark Hall.
Good evening, all. How are y'all? Are you hearing what they're saying? That's a great thing. Senator Kennedy, Representative Rich, all you fine members here tonight. I'm David Sykes. I'm chairman of the Toombs County Board of Commissioners, and I'm here to represent the city of Vidalia, the city of Lyons, and the sweet little gem in the middle of our county known as Santa Claus. During this process, we are asking that you keep Toombs County whole. As Ginger has already spoken about Montgomery County and Toombs County doing so many things together, that's real, all the way to eating at the dinner table Sunday after church. We are a group, and we ask to stay together. With these things that we do, statewide and locally, it's just better as a whole. So I speak for you on behalf of our entire county, with the cities included. Our mayors are here as well. The Vidalia mayor couldn't be here tonight, but the Lyons is here. But we ask that you guys please consider keeping us together, keeping us whole. we've sent you a mighty fine representative in Lisa Hagan to come work with you guys in the Gold Dome. If there's anything we can ever do for you in Toombs County, please reach out to us through Lisa, and we'll be glad to help you in any way that we can. Thank y'all so much for sacrificing what you do, sacrificing with your family, and sacrificing your time to be here tonight and just to listen to us. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sykes.
And Ginger taught me too.
Okay. Next, we have Mark Hall, followed by Nola Scott McFadden.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'd like to speak first, my name is Sergeant First Class Mark Hall, United States Army retired from Tifton in Tift County. I'd first like to speak specifically about Tifton and Tift County. We would very much like to have our county and our city restored to a single representative district. We are currently split between 3 districts in the State House, not only our county of 40,000, but our city of 15,000. That seems excessive for one small community. But I would also like to speak more generally. In the last 10 years, the demographic makeup of Georgia has shifted quite a bit, as many others have already mentioned, and with it, political power. This trend is very clear. In 2018, Republicans barely held on to the office of governor and lost 1 seat in Congress. In 2020, you lost the presidential race, both Senate seats, and another House seat. Over those same years, you also lost 4 seats in the state legislature. So far, the Republican strategy to recover your losses is clear. Use every partisan trick in the book to pick your own voters and retain whatever power you can. But you cannot gerrymander statewide races. You cannot keep full control of Georgia through the same old tricks. In fact, that may only speed up the trend. Gerrymandering is very unpopular, and it is very obvious when it happens. Our own 8th Congressional District, we can see a notch in Bibb County to help Austin Scott retain his office year after year. We can see another notch in the same district all the way down in Valdosta to help Austin Scott retain his power year after year. As Ronald Reagan said, the fact is gerrymandering has become a national scandal, and the people and the voters agree. In 2018 and 2020, several states passed redistricting reform with high bipartisan support. Some of them even did so through popular referendums, overriding their own legislatures to force a more fair solution. A 2019 poll showed that 59% of Republican voters opposed gerrymandering. More importantly, 64% of independents oppose it, and those are the voters watching you right now to see if you are interested only in maintaining your power at any cost, or if you truly want what is best for all Georgia citizens. This year, you have the opportunity to make a lasting statement for the voters in support of democracy and fairness. You can choose to put the redistricting in the hands of a nonpartisan commission to draw the maps fairly, compactly. Thank you. And without the grotesque, divisive, misshapen lumps of past years. That would be a statement that would extend long past the time when the Democratic shift puts you firmly in the minority, because once you have established such a commission, Democrats would find it very difficult to remove, even if that favored them. That would go a long way to show independents that you can think beyond your own selfish partisan interests and shore up your support now when you need it the most. Or you can do what we all expect, draw the new districts to spread your own voters thin and cluster the Democrats tightly, and so manage to eke out a few more districts for a few more years. That decision will be used against you in every election for the next 10 years, reminding the voters every time they look at those maps that you are only interested in yourselves, driving independents further away from you, eroding your support ever faster. It may let you keep the State House for a little longer, maybe even gain you back a seat in Congress for a term or two, but it will probably cost you the governor's mansion next year, and it will be a long-term drag on your already failing support. It's up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, please respect the time of the others who would like to speak. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Next, we have Nola Scott McFadden, followed by Edward Chenkovic.
Well, I would like to say thank you, Mr. Hall, for your service, and you're a tough act to follow. Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak. As a citizen of Middle Georgia, I've seen tremendous growth in our population and changes in the demographics of our state. With the low participation in the 2020 census, we will possibly see shifts in school and voting districts, a decrease in health care provided in rural areas, and reduction in federal funding programs such as Title I. In particular, gerrymandered school boundaries and the decline of education that could prevent children from receiving a quality education. Long voter lines resulting in discouraged voters and low voting participation. Equally, inadequate health care services in rural areas will lead to long commutes or limited source of transportation to go and receive the necessary care. There's much at stake. Please remember that you are elected to serve the citizen of Georgia and not a political party. Fair and equitable transparency is all we ask of you during the redistricting process. The decision you make will impact the next generation and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott McFadden. Next, we have Edward Chenkovic, followed by David Horton.
Good evening. I thank you, Georgia senators and House committee members, for holding these hearings across the state, these town hall meetings. I know you devote a lot of effort to this, so I thank you very much and appreciate it. My name is Ed Chenkovic. I've lived in Bon Air, just south of Robins Air Force Base, for the past 26 years in Houston County since mid-1995. I'm a retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and 31-plus year career Air Force flight crew member, having graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy in 1975. After retiring from the Air Force in late 2006, I became a Georgia resident, formerly a Florida resident. My plea: I voted in every election since then, including all previous eligible elections through my former Florida residency while I was on active duty serving across the world. I voted in Georgia House District 147 in the 2008 and 2010 general elections. In the 2012 general election, my ballot stated that I was now voting in newly redistricted Georgia House District 144, most of which was formerly Georgia House District 140. I believe you said Bubber Epps is here, Representative Bubber Epps formerly. That was the first time I'd ever heard his name in 17 or 16 years of living in Georgia. But anyway, after voting in the 2012 election, I peeled back the onion and discovered that your predecessor committee from back in the 2011 and 2012 timeframe had redistricted the small slice of Houston County where I resided from Georgia 147 district to Georgia 144. I ask that you redistrict this small slice of Houston County back to what is currently Georgia 147, as at least it formerly was. On an important geographical side note, the entire southern boundary of Robins Air Force Base now touches the entire northern portion of this Houston County slice of Georgia 144. The vast majority of folks in this small slice of Houston County, and I've talked to many of them, that are currently in Georgia 144 have interests directly tied to Robins Air Force Base and Houston County, not, and I emphasize not, to the much more rural counties to our east that make up the great majority of Georgia 144. That is, the entire counties of Twiggs, Wilkinson, and Bleckley, and the southern part of Jones County and the northwest portion of Lawrence County. So I ask that in your upcoming committee meetings that you unhook this small slice of Houston County from Georgia 144 and reattach it to Georgia 147, or even Georgia 146 or Georgia 148, which make up the rest of Houston County and are directly associated with both Robbins and, of course, Houston County. For this small slice of Georgia 144 that is disconnected, and if needed, increase the size of Georgia 144 that is currently in Lawrence County and/or Jones County. This is not, emphasizing again not, this is not a partisan issue. That is, it's not Democratic, it's not Republican. It is a population interest association issue. In closing, I ask that you please un-gerrymander what was gerrymandered 10 years ago. And one final note, and as I've heard many folks say across your meetings across the state, and I've watched the videos on them, including tonight, of course, I ask that your near final and final redistricting maps be publicly released before they are voted on in the Georgia State House, as your booklet, little handout says, so hopefully you'll be able to do that in your time crunch. And again, thank you all for your time and kind consideration of what I've stated. Thank you much.
Thank you very much. Next, we have David Horton, followed by George Crawley.
All right, good evening, Chairman Kennedy and Chairman Rich, and a special good evening to my senator. Now, we have met before. I testified at the hearings in Cummings. But for those who don't know me, my name is David Horton Jr., but most call me DJ. I'm a 13-year-old and a rising 8th grader at Providence Christian Academy. Now, over the past several months, I have volunteered to help educate people about the redistricting process and how to combat the devastating effects of gerrymandering and the manipulation of the redistricting process. Now, I believe gerrymandering is wrong and undemocratic. But come on, guys, so did Ronald Reagan, who said, "That's all we're asking for is an end to anti-democratic and un-American practice of gerrymandering congressional districts. The fact is, gerrymandering has become a national scandal," end quote. Now, today I'd like to focus on the ways gerrymandering directly undermines our democracy. Now, to start off, let's remind ourselves that gerrymandering undermines the voices of U.S. citizens, plain and simple. Partisan gerrymandering discourages voter turnout for ways, for example, a person living in a district of one party that is grotesquely gerrymandered to gerrymandered district to favor another party will evidently be discouraged from voting at all. Now, districts that are gerrymandered to the point that incumbents are guaranteed re-election also means that legislators do not have to listen to all, and I mean all, their constituents to keep their seat. They would only have to listen to their base of supporters who chose them in the primaries. Gerrymandering also leads to extreme partisanship and lack of bipartisan problem solving. An incumbent may say, "I have no reason to compromise on a bill. All I have to do is please my base." Now, one person, one vote is the law of the land, but not a reality in gerrymandered districts. And again, I will end with this. Gerrymandering is not a right or left issue, it's a right or wrong issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horton. Next, we have George Crawley, followed by Mary Lunn Ezell.
Good evening. My name is George Crawley. I am a lifelong resident of Macon, Georgia. I just want to make sure I just say I agree with AJ, who just spoke before me. He spoke eloquently about speaking out against gerrymandering, and basically that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Definite bonus points there. All right, we have Mary Lunn Ezell, followed by Irving Fordham.
Senator Kennedy, members of the committee, good evening. My name is Mary Lou Ezell. You couldn't read my print. I get it. Don't worry about it. My husband and I are 30-year residents of Bibb County, Macon-Bibb County. And we are concerned about the redistricting process, like everybody else in this room this evening. Now, I think one of the things we need to talk about is we all understand our state constitution grants you the right to draw districts. But we also understand that in some of these districts, They are designed for the incumbent to be reelected. We all know that, and you know it too. This is cynical, it is unethical. And I do hope that none of you agree to this process. Now, we've heard from several of the speakers tonight about their counties and how they're split. Well, in Macon-Bibb, we have 5 districts. 5. Some of them here are talking about they're split 2 ways and 3 ways. Well, we're split 5, but we are one community. We deserve to have, at a maximum, 2 districts, not these 5 that split us off. Now, as a former elementary school principal, I'm going to make this really simple. There's just 3 things we want. 1, transparent process. Everybody has spoken about that. And that does mean looking at the maps after they have been formed and before you vote on them, because they may need to be changed again. Second, we need nonpartisan maps that reflect community input. And we are grateful for the input that we're getting tonight. We are, for sure. And objective benchmarks for how redistricting occurs. Now, I know all of you on the committee know already why the Princeton Gerrymandering Project selected Georgia. They selected Georgia because we have such a sad history of gerrymandering for the last 20 years. Pretty sad comment to be selected for that reason. Now, we're not the only ones, but it is so obvious when you see a district that runs up and down the whole state that what's going on here. So, the Princeton Gerrymandering Project, also along with Fair Districts and many others, are willing to provide statistical benchmarks for nonpartisan balance and minority representation, and to share nonpartisan maps with you. I hope you will do that. You know, it's embarrassing to have our state of Georgia known for its gerrymandering. Georgia is a great state. Macon-Bibb is a great place to live and to work. We deserve better, and you can do better. Thank you.
All right, next we have Irving Fordham, followed by Damanish Anatet.
I am Irving Bernard Fordham, and I'm not as diplomatic as Danny Glover. I had to drive 70 miles to get this citizen input meeting. And I thank the young lady who mentioned about advance notice. I first heard about the citizen input meeting on the local NBC affiliate. I subscribe to the AJC. I found out about the other meetings in the AJC. And to go back, when I first heard about these meetings, I heard about a meeting the day of the meeting. The first one, I think, may have been in Gainesville. The second one was in Dalton, near the Tennessee state line. I'm the father of 2 20-year-olds. My oldest daughter accompanied me while I was helping encourage the Cal citizens to vote. My youngest daughter, this past election was her first election. And I'm here to let you know, this black daddy is going to fight you with every bone in my body. We all saying the same thing. This is the first time citizens had a chance to give input. In Georgia, my dad had a saying, I'm going to paraphrase for the public. Don't urinate me and tell me that it's raining. Don't smile in my face while you stabbing me in my back. We next door to Fulton County, and we're waiting to see if the President of the United States is going to get indicted for coercing the Secretary of State, trying to switch 11,780 votes. And the people up here, that House Bill 515, that even isn't even subtle racism. It's blatant racism. And the whole world sees what you guys are doing. Taking that heritage template in 14 states, now in Georgia, killing home rule, manipulating the state election board and local election board, and that weasel disparaged the President of the United States, but he didn't tell the world what you guys were doing behind the scenes. So I came down here to make sure citizen testimony, USA versus Georgia, is in your permanent record. Yes, I am a Georgia resident. I reside in Allgood Elementary School precinct in Stone Mountain House District 86. And I've been registered in DeKalb County since August 1980. And this type of meeting is prima facie evidence. So many federal appellate court have ruled against excessive racial gerrymandering. The majority of African Americans reside in Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb, Gwinnett, and Chatham counties. And we got to go all over to get to these meetings. And whoever scheduled these meetings, you knew exactly what you were doing. This wasn't no accident. So Georgia just has a pattern. I can't think of anything diabolical and devious of what you guys are doing. And real Christians aren't afraid of fake Christians. You guys aren't a statesman. The majority of Georgians reside in the Atlanta SMSA. Nearly 6 million people out of 11 million. And they have to come 70 miles. We didn't hear about those early meetings. And if you wanted to be a statesman, you could have scheduled in the Twin Towers and the state capitol and across the street a Trinity in your chambers. So I'm going to kind of end with some other thing going on in Georgia. How in the world can you have a governor on West Paces Ferry drive to the Georgia Gold Dome and not see all those homeless people? We aren't invisible. How can Mike Pence come down to CDC, go to a victory tour in Savannah, and not even slow the motorcade and speak to us in DeKalb County? I'm done.
Next, we have Damanish Anatan, followed by Marty Copland.
Good evening, chairs, members of the committee. Is that good? My name is Jamanish Antenna. The D is actually silent. I'm a redistricting coordinator at FairCount, and I work in Georgia. FairCount is a nonpartisan nonprofit focused on equity, access, and participation in our democracy. And tonight I'm going to talk about prison mandering. Prison mandering, or prison gerrymandering, is the practice of counting incarcerated people in the place they're incarcerated instead of the place they're from during the decennial census and redistricting. As you know, most incarcerated people can't vote and do not benefit from many public resources. This results in resources and representation being disproportionately allocated to the area surrounding the incarceration facility. In Georgia, these incarceration facilities are often placed in majority white rural areas, and as we all know, the U.S. disproportionately incarcerates Black and brown people. This means that the resources and representation that Black and brown communities should receive are allocated instead to far-off majority white areas. Prison mandering inflates the voting power of rural white voters, ultimately challenging the one person, one vote principle that is so central to this redistricting process and our democracy. 10 states have banned prison mandering in time for the 2020 redistricting cycle. Maryland, New York, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Nevada, New Jersey, Virginia, and Washington. Illinois banned prison mandering in time for the 2030 cycle. Georgia has not banned the practice at all. According to the Prison Policy Initiative, 102,000 Georgians in 2018 were in prison, jails, or other involuntary facilities. Let's break that number down. That's 54,000 people in state prisons, 39,000 people in local jails, 7,900 people in federal prisons, 1,100 incarcerated youth, and 400 people in involuntary commitment. Additionally, according to freedomforimmigrants.org, in April 2019, Georgia was the state with the 5th largest population of detained immigrants, nearly 4,000 people. All of US history has disproportionately hurt and disadvantaged Black and brown people. In the last year and a half, we've seen a global pandemic worsen those inequalities and inequities and kill Black and brown people at disproportionate rates. We have seen inequities in vaccine distribution harm Black and brown communities. Additionally, 2020 census data had the largest undercounts in communities of color, which will result in roughly $3,700 in resources per person lost every year for a decade. That means lives, livelihoods, resources, and power have been taken from Black people and other people of color disproportionately yet again. We urge the committee and local elected officials to take a step toward breaking this pattern by counting incarcerated people where they are from, not where they are incarcerated during this redistricting cycle. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to speaking with you again on August 30th in Macon, or in Augusta.
Thank you. Ms. Antenna, did I get it right that time? Okay, thank you. I apologize. Next, we have Marty Copland, followed by Ron Shipman.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here this evening. Welcome to Macon. Glad to have you all here. Thank you for this opportunity to speak and for giving us all an opportunity to be heard. I don't want to sound fatalistic, and perhaps you've already drawn the maps in some back room somewhere and you're just going through the motions, but I sure hope not. Ooh, cold. I hope you take into consideration the comments that you hear from the people around the state, from here this evening as well as all across the state, who feel it's so important that they be represented fairly in the state legislature, in Washington, as well as in their own communities. Redistricting should be nonpartisan and transparent. We ought to have maps based on community input like this, logical geographic boundaries, and independent, nonpartisan oversight, not politics. It is only in this way that Georgia citizens will be able to choose representatives who will have their best interests in mind. Fair representation is good for all Georgians. So how about you confound the pundits and go down in history for doing the right thing and not the predictable thing? And I'll take my bonus points.
You got it.
Thank you, Ms. Copland. Next, we have Ron Shipman, followed by Jason Downey.
Okay. Good afternoon. Chairwoman Rich, Chairman Kennedy, and other distinguished members of the Senate, the Joint Senate Reapportionment and Redistricting and House Legislative and Congressional Reapportionment Committees. Glad to see you all and welcome to Macon, Georgia. My name is Ron Shipman and I stand before you as a recently retired business leader responsible for product delivery for more than 400,000 customers in central and southwest Georgia. I stand before you as a lifelong resident of Georgia, having moved to or lived in Metro Atlanta at least 3 times, but also lived in southeast Georgia, east Georgia, and central Georgia as well. I also stand before you as a citizen, having lived in the 8th, 10th, Old 12th, Old 11th, Old 4th congressional districts. In the 18th, 19th, 21st, and 55th state senatorial districts, and a number of House districts, including the 141st and the 122nd, and over a 36-year career. As you can tell, I've moved around Georgia a little bit. But I also stand before you as a board member on a county election board, an economic development authority board, and a hospital authority. But mainly, I stand before you as a Georgian to say thank you. A Georgian to say thank you for making Georgia the best state in the nation in which to do business. To say thank you for your leadership to attract and retain over 1 million new people over the last decade. I also want to say thank you for the numerous public comments, listening sessions on reapportionment and redistricting. Over the past couple of decades, decades ago, history has shown that public comment listening sessions like this was rare, if not non-existent. History shows us that under gubernatorial administrations in the mid-90s, that the U.S. Department of Justice, under the Federal Voter Right Act of 1965, had to step in and ensure districts like the old 4th Congressional District that stretched from 250 miles from Decatur to Savannah and Augusta. In the language in a 1993 Supreme Court ruling, in the case of Shaw versus Reno, and again in Miller versus Johnson, the judges called the 11th District in North Carolina a racial gerrymander that could not be seen as anything but an attempt to exclude certain races. The judges also wrote that any attempt to explain the 11th District is anything but a far-flung search for certain voters utterly collapses under the weight of direct evidence. That's an end quote. Madam and Mr. Chair, finally, I want to say thank you for demonstrating your leadership. Over the last decennial, with guidance and assistance from this and the previous gubernatorial administrations, you have demonstrated to the Department of Justice that Georgia leaders will get the job done again, accurately, correctly, and without a need for oversight, as in the past. You've also demonstrated that reshaping Georgia, both figuratively and literally, to a Georgia that represents Georgia in which we all live, work, or retire, and enjoy, just like each one of you. Thank you for your time. And thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Shipman. Next, we have Jason Downey, followed by Britt Jones-Shukra.
Chairwoman Rich, Chairman Kennedy, senators, representatives, thank you for coming to Macon, Georgia today. My name is Jason Downey, and I'm the Vice Chairman of the State Board of Education. And I'm speaking to you on that capacity, but also I'm speaking to you as the representative of the 8th Congressional District on the State Board of Education, as a Middle Georgia resident, as a Jones County resident, but most importantly, as not living in the Atlanta area. I live in the Senate District number 26, and Senator David Lucas is my state senator. But a slingshot away is Senate District 25, which is Senator Burt Jones. I live in House District 144, where Representative Mathis is my representative. However, I could throw a baseball and reach District 129, which is Representative Susan Holmes. I live in the middle of Jones County, and yet my street seems to be a dividing line, and I'll come back to that in a second, because we've heard about oddly shaped districts, and we've heard from our esteemed friends from Toombs County, Montgomery County, Houston County, and Tift County, and we talk about oddly shaped districts and how they divide communities. And I ask, as you look at the census data, that you strive to not divide up communities, but that you also look beyond Atlanta and look at South Georgia, at rural Georgia, the 8th Congressional District, and I will give you some stats. It looks like the 8th Congressional District has only gained in population about 2% over the last 10 years, while the state of Georgia has grown 10.6%. When you look at counties in middle Georgia, Jones County has only grown by 0.2%. It looks like Putnam County has experienced growth of about 4.2%. Monroe County, 5.4%, all lower and not quite in pace with what the state is growing. When you look at Bibb County has experienced a loss of about 1.7% in population. Twiggs County has experienced a loss of 10% of its population. Baldwin County about 2.1%. But when we look at the large metro area Atlanta counties, which are already huge to begin with, Fulton County has grown 15.6%. Cobb County has grown 10.5%. Gwinnett County has grown 16.3%. Cherokee County has grown 20.7%. Now, I say this because I've been all over this state, but particularly Middle Georgia and the 8th Congressional District, speaking to individuals about public education, but also other concerns, because they know that I'm in a unique position to have an opportunity to have dialogue with each of you about a variety of things. And so I wanted to come here today and ask you that, again, as you look at the maps, as you look at the redistricting, and you look at how things need to be moving forward, that you remember that there exists a Georgia outside of Atlanta, that there exists a Georgia where farming is still king, that there exists a Georgia where people live well below the poverty level and are scared to death that this redistricting will divide their communities, redraw their maps, and leave them hanging out to dry. And I ask you to simply remember that. As for the gerrymandering aspect, I will say this and leave with this final thought. Competition breeds excellence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Next, we have Britt Jones-Shukra, followed by Catherine Maddox.
Hello, thank you, Senator Kennedy and Representative Rich and the entire committee for this space to provide public testimony. My name is Brittany and Georgia is my home. I serve as one of the directors of nonprofit Protect the Vote, and I'm glad to be here to speak with you all. I will keep it short due to how I echo the many powerful voices in the room, and because you guys have also seen me at a couple of these hearings before. Being from Georgia, no matter what part you're from, it's important to stick up and speak up for community. Redistricting hearings should offer more transparency to the citizens it impacts. Voters should be able to choose who represents them and not worry about closed-door meetings and strategies that are harmful. Georgians have shown repeatedly how important their voices are and that we will not settle and stand by. If you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have an obligation to do something about it. From the words of John Lewis, but most definitely shown in the steps of community members here in Georgia. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Shukra. Next, we have Catherine Maddox, followed by Hannah. It starts with a G. Sorry. Okay.
Hello, it's Hannah Gabriselesi.
Okay. Gabriselesi.
Yes.
I said it, okay.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Maddox. I am so grateful to be here to lift my voice alongside other Georgians who care deeply about democracy and our commitment to all of us being represented fairly. We are in a crucial moment, not just as a state, but as a nation, where we are grappling with creating systems of accountability. Because in order for the American experiment to be successful and to ensure that everyone is granted equal access to the franchise and to receive the full promise that is their due under the Constitution, we must be accountable. If we are to be in this moment, it is essential to address the past problems with redistricting and reapportionment process so that the state can move forward with a solid foundation. The foremost issue that I see is that having maps drawn by legislators whose elections are directly affected by these same maps is problematic and has historically affected members of both parties. Both Andrew Young and Newt Gingrich were at some time effectively written out of their own districts as a result of partisan gerrymandering. The ultimate solution to prevent even the appearance of impropriety is to ensure that communities are empowered to represent themselves, and to encourage civic engagement would be to do as 20 other states have done, and to amend the state constitution to create an independent commission for redistricting. While I understand in Georgia that commission lies somewhere in the future, there are measures that can be taken now to hold yourselves accountable. The state of Georgia will be under heavy scrutiny in this process for reasons that we are all aware. And because of the partisan makeup of the redistricting committees in both the House and the Senate bodies, it will be the party making up the majority who must ask themselves if, in the absence of pre-clearance from the Supreme Court, and in the absence of an initiative process with your fellow public servants, will you use your power in this moment and join us all in the work that is being done to rectify this state and country's racist past? I echo the many who have urged you to adopt the policies set forth by the Princeton gerrymandering projects as well as fair districts, who have offered to take out any guesswork in ensuring fairness. I also echo the leader from the ACLU who brought up access. There are many Georgians with different access needs, and it is imperative that they are met. I echo the elementary school teacher who brought up something you can do to ensure that these public hearings are in earnest. After you have drawn the maps, you will need to hear from us again, the people who will be living in these districts for the next decade of our lives. There has been talk of time and whether there is enough of it. And as surely as I am standing here today with all of you and everyone else in this room, there is always enough time to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maddox. Next, we have Hannah Gabriselassie. After that, we will have Carolyn Schomer.
Good evening once again. It's so good to see so many familiar faces and new faces here in Macon. Thank you for welcoming us to this community. A special thanks to Mercer, the entire committee, both the House and the Senate side. Also want to shout out my Senator Gloria Butler over there in the corner. We thank you all for creating this space for us to be able to weigh in. My name is Hannah Joy Gabriselassie, and I serve as the Executive Director for Protect the Vote, a nonprofit created to increase voter mobilization and defend our democracy here in Georgia. I'm a proud Georgian, and I am proud to call this state my home, despite some of the flaws that exist in our communities, which I know we will address together. I've had the opportunity to speak at previous hearings and wanted to just add a couple of brief points, so hopefully I can get some brownie points at the end of this as well. According to data released by the United States Census Bureau, over the past decade, we saw how the state had an increase of more than 1 million new Georgians. Everybody processed that. More than 1 million new Georgians are now in this state. That's a lot of people. You add that to what we had before, and you're looking at more than 10 million Georgians who consider Georgia home and who live here. Today, I ask you, what actions will you take to consider the more than 10 million Georgians in our state to make sure that everybody is considered while drawing these maps? We understand this process is not easy. We understand it's not going to happen overnight, but I believe it's possible to do the right thing while incorporating more transparency throughout this process. As we all know, there's a lot of questions that need answers. You all have been listening to community members all across the state, like you said, from the south to the north to the east to the west. And there's a lot of questions. Again, I would like to know, how do you plan to implement elements of our feedback into your planning and building new maps to ensure that these hearings weren't just for show? What can you tell us? Thank you. Otherwise, we would be doing a disservice to the communities that y'all have visited versus a service. So I really would like to know, what elements will you incorporate in the planning? I would like to further emphasize creating future opportunities to collect public input as maps proposed become available. It is imperative to collect public testimony, not just when these conversations are ideas or concepts, but when the maps come to fruition. We've seen other states take in suggested maps from established organizations and community members in their states. Is this something that y'all may consider doing? Another important question: what is your approach for including people who are incarcerated or experiencing homelessness into this redistricting process? Also, I'm a proud product of immigrants from East Africa, and I can tell you that a lot of our communities here in Georgia have diverse people who may speak English as a second language. What will you do to make sure our neighbors from all around the world are considered in this process? Now, we can look at the full makeup of this committee, all right? It's not sitting here today, but when we look at the full makeup of this redistricting committee body, we see that it does not properly reflect the diversity here in Georgia. But the values and the consideration that goes into the creation of these new maps and drawing lines, those can represent the true diversity in our state if you all take action today. Today, I join community members in demanding an end to gerrymandering to prevent impacts that would directly harm Black voters and millions of other voters across this state. I believe that Georgia can be a fierce example to other states across the nation by putting the people first and allowing us to properly elect our own elected officials. Moving forward, we all plan to monitor this process very closely. And many of us are here because we want the best for this state. But it's on each of you, sitting in each of these chairs, to make that happen. So for the future generations, we hope we can count on you to act with integrity, fairness, and transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gabriela Sassi. Next, we have Carolyn Scomer, followed by Melanie Williams. What is it?
Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Carolyn Schomer. I'm from Houston County, and I'm just here because I'm an 80-plus-year-old citizen. I have been trying to recruit voters. For the first time this year, I worked polls. I was a ballot monitor. I was trying to getting really involved. One of the things that's really hurt me is that I can't get people to vote because they say it won't matter. And I think that part of the reason it won't matter is they don't know who their representatives are. They don't have information. And we've got to do a better job, I think, of conveying that it really matters, that we express our opinions, and that we want our districts to be fair. We want them to represent everybody in our communities. You mentioned earlier that after these meetings, you would be developing the rules that you will be using in each group. I would like to see you posting all of those rules long before the information comes out of what the maps are going to look like. Let us know what criteria you are using to try to come up with what these maps are going to be. I know a lot of it is set for you. You don't have a choice about a lot of it. But you're going to be making a lot of decisions, and I'm just encouraging you to do that. I'll probably be out there trying to get people to vote for another 10 years if I'm lucky enough to live that long. But I would like to see us to really be able to enhance the involvement of the citizens of Georgia, regardless of who they are or where they live, to feel like they really have a part of what's going on in this wonderful state. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Melanie Williams, followed by Naisha Thomas.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak before you. My name is Melanie Williams, and I am not coming to be an advocate today, but I am coming as a concerned DeKalb County resident of District 43. I was a State Senate District 43 candidate in the last year, 2020 last year's election. And I didn't realize how big of an ugly monster this voting process was in Georgia. I've been a citizen of District 43 for 30 years, and I hope in future plans to draw the lines that finally, those lines will finally close the gap of the most disenfranchised and vulnerable communities of DeKalb County. District 43 I've been a resident for 43 years. I'm sorry, been for 30 years, and I've never seen the communities feel so lost, confused, stricken to the lowest levels of our voting process in Georgia. So I hope this plan will bring fair and more transparent in the voting process in years to come, to bring a healthy democracy where it's most needed, where we think more of the people and what's best for our communities, and to no longer have a mob rule style process which hurt our most vulnerable citizens and communities. We can't have future years of the same government process with the legislative process being crafted to hurt our communities in years to come. And my only wish for future elections, and while the maps are being drawn and the new plans that will take place in future elections, my only wish is that there's some type of federal oversight and compliance at every level, and more oversight, especially in our primary elections, to make this voting process in years to come in the state of Georgia, where I have been a resident of the state of Georgia for 53 years, and I've never seen it this bad. But I hope in the future that this process will become fair, and that you as elected officials, we choose you, that you have the heart for the people and not for the heart for something that's bigger than itself. With practical and simplicity brings truth that none of us should ever, ever ignore. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Next, we have Naisha Thomas.
Well, I guess I'm about to get some brownie points because I know we've been here for a while. My kids are back there. I had a whole list of things to say, but I'm going to keep it short. I'm just going to say that please don't break up my city, my county. I live in Bibb County. I think that we're doing a great job with what we have right now, working together, trying to make our community great again, put an end to gerrymandering, and our community is supporting each other right now. And so I don't think that that should be interrupted or split up or combined. So if you would, keep everything how it is for Bibb County. And thank you.
Naisha Thomas. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Next, we have Kathy Cox, the Dean of the Mercer Law School.
Good afternoon, friends. Chairman Rich and Chairman Kennedy, thank you for coming to Middle Georgia, and thank you all for your service to the state. It's great to see so many friends here tonight. I'm coming, and I'll be brief, to wear two hats. First, as a citizen and a former office holder, I do appreciate the complex task that you have ahead of you and understand how difficult it is to draw the maps that you're going to have to draw this fall. I have the dubious distinction of having my name on the United States Supreme Court lawsuit, Cox versus Larios, which the state of Georgia lost in 2004 following the 2001 reapportionment process. For a quick little history lesson, Georgia lost that case, and that case has come to stand in the body of election law for one main principle, which was legislative overreach. By Democrats at the time, the court found Democrats trying to hold on to waning power somewhat in 2001, tried to preserve their power, tried to draw districts that favored them, tried to pack lots of incumbent Republicans together so that they would have to run against each other, and in doing so, they violated the one person, one vote rule. So it's not a case that I'm very proud to have my name attached to, being a teacher of election law nowadays. So I urge you to be good students of history. Don't repeat those lessons of history that are right on our doorstep in Georgia of legislative overreach. Remember those principles that you've heard echoed here tonight by a lot of really good speakers of how important communities of interest are to all of our citizens. It matters to us voters. Our communities really matter to us. And as a Bibb County resident now, I almost tie Ron Shipman for having lived in the most congressional and legislative districts around the state now. But I will tell you, or I would urge you, to take a special look at communities like Macon Bibb that have put in the hard, difficult investment of becoming consolidated governments, because we have become a community. We're working really hard in Macon Bibb right now. Our mayor is working really hard to make sure we're all on the same page, that we're all pulling for each other, that we're lifting up all neighborhoods and respecting all neighborhoods in our community. And we want to be one Macon Bibb government. So please look at all those communities, and there are not that many in Georgia, of course, that have gone through that difficult effort to consolidate their governments. But that's one nuance in the process of a community of interest that I think really deserves some special attention. So I thank you for considering all the comments you've heard tonight, and I'll leave you with an offer. You don't get a lot of offers, I bet. I'm a teacher of election law at Mercer Law School, and I've got some 36 students signed up for my class this fall. So we will be coming up to watch your process this fall when you have dates set, but I will offer you their labor, their research work. They would love to help you in any way that you see that these eager law students who believe in the fairness of elections, they would love to help you. If you have research projects they can do for you, please let me know, because they'd love to be a part of your process and to help the state of Georgia. Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean Cox. Next, we have Pachaya Poi Winnechackle, followed by Henry C. Ficklin.
Hello, my name is Pichia Poi Winnechackle, and I'm a staff attorney with the Southern Poverty Law Center. The SPLC is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to upholding the fundamental right of all citizens to vote. And I'm a little short, and I don't think you can hear me. Is this better? Okay. The SPLC continues to advocate for meaningful opportunities for public engagement. This means the ability to attach documents like proposed maps to any written submission to the committee, which the current Google form does not allow us to do currently. This also means in-language materials. The online submission forms are only provided in English, which makes the form inaccessible to over 100,000 Georgians with limited English proficiency. Moreover, there has not been an ASL interpreter at any of these hearings, nor is there closed captioning when the hearings are streamed. I might add that I have some ADA compliance concerns with the venues as well. Finally, meaningful public engagement also means responses to the public's reasonable questions. What are the committee's 2021 redistricting guidelines? Will you provide additional opportunity for public comment and engagement following the release of census data? While we understand the committee's position that they want to hear from the public, and the public has, while we understand the committee's position that they want to hear from the public, The public has not learned anything new since the start of the hearing tour, and without information from this committee, it is difficult for us to offer meaningful input on the redistricting process. Providing opportunities for the public to give meaningful input is especially important here in the greater Macon area, where people of color make up an increasingly large share of the population. As a result, many giving testimony today, especially people of color, have come forth with important information about their communities of interest for your consideration. The committee should work to preserve those enumerated communities of interest, particularly communities of color, and respond to the public's questions, generate or publish redistricting guidelines, and respond to requests for public testimony options after the census data is released. Finally, I just want to raise two issues as we near the end of these summer town halls. First, I understand the Google form continues to be the only way to submit written comments, and that there is no current deadline yet for submitting these comments, but I assume there will be one. We just ask that the committee commit to giving the public at least 2 weeks' notice before you close off this form. You can give this notice via website, email, press release, all of the above. That would be helpful. Second, our concerns about the venue of the rescheduled Augusta Town Hall on August 30th. Community members have raised concerns that the pathway from the parking lot into the venue presents difficulty to those with an ambulatory disability. Moreover, the venue is not on a bus line, and there are otherwise limited public transportation options to attend the hearing. As I understand it, community members have made this committee aware of such issues, including through the submission of a petition, which recommends that the hearing be moved to Augusta University's Maxwell Theater and Auditorium, 2500 Walton Way, or Augusta Technical College Information Technology Center Auditorium, 3200 Augusta Tech Drive. Could the public get a commitment from the committee today that you will reconsider the August 30th hearing venue? And that's all I got. So, thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Winnetackle. Next, we have Henry Ficklin, followed by Marion Williams. And we have 2 more speakers after that. Is Henry Ficklin here? He waves. He's not here? Okay. Marion Williams, followed by Henry Brown. Okay.
She needs to lean this up. Okay, I didn't come with a script. Chairman Rich, Kennedy, I'm going to speak this evening. I think when I think of gerrymandering, I'm always, in my mind's eye, I see people in a back room with the visor on, and then they come out the smoke-filled room and tell us what's best for us. I spent 30 years in the Air Force, and the one thing I learned over that 30-year period is, who's your boss? So I worked for the people of America. But it seems to me what's lost on us today is that you don't realize you work for us. We pay taxes, we pay your salaries, and we shouldn't have to ask you to do right by us. We should demand that you do right by us. And for those of you that don't hear us, we should vote you out. It's just that simple. So as we stand on the precipice of some of the most dangerous times in the history of this country, I'm reminded of some of the things I did in the Air Force, like nation building. And it really didn't resonate with me until I came back to the state of Georgia. I am not a native Georgian. My father was born here in Georgia and migrated to Michigan, so I was raised in Michigan. And I don't know how in the heck I retired to Georgia, because that was not in my plan. All right, so when I retired to Georgia, I picked up golf. That's my passion. But I would tell you that you might want to consider your future, what people are going to think about you 20, 30 years from now. You know, I used to come to Georgia from Michigan as a kid, and the one person my father used to tell us was the boogeyman was Lester Maddox. Just telling you, here's the boogeyman. Some of you may know him, some of you don't know him, but you can look at his history. You can look at the John Lewises of Georgia, a beacon of hope and a refreshing ideal. But if I can leave you with one thing in the morning, if you read the Bible, they talk about in the morning, the light will shine on you. We'll figure it out as people, and either you're going to be on the right side of this or you're going to be on the wrong side of it. But nevertheless, there is a side that you wind up on. So thank you for the couple of minutes here. And some of you I see nodding, some of you see, but I'm good with you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Next, we have Henry Brown. Oh, that was Henry Brown. Okay. So we have our last speaker, Debbie Taylor.
I gotta put these glasses back on. Good evening, Senator Kennedy, and Representative Rich, and the whole entire committee. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous here. I'm the last one here. My name is Debbie Taylor. Can you hear me? I'm sorry, everyone. Can you hear me now? Is it a little bit better? Okay, my name is Debbie Taylor. I'm a PhD scholar in psychology and a candidate for Centerville, and I'm speaking on behalf of the municipal government there. I recently was in an election in a runoff, and I'm here to represent the people there and to talk about the gross differences in the people that are comprised in Houston County. So I prepared something that I sent over to the website, and I did not know I would have the opportunity to speak here today, so I will just deliver what I have here. I'm here today on behalf of the constituents to seek truth, trust, and transparency in the process of redistricting and the impact on the community. Second, to seek fair and equal accountability of the census data set because Georgia has a history of gerrymandering. As we go through the pandemic, which has significantly impacted the census process, it is expected that the results of the resident participation would be skewed. How do you intend to protect the mapping of our communities to be a fair representation of the evolving population demographics and the reapportionment of legislators to the community that would be favorable to remapping the district lines? Minorities and people of color, people living below the poverty line are not reflected in the discourse, and the current district lines favor the more socially and economically advantaged. The promise of government is that each person is adequately represented, regardless of the ethnicity, gender, religion, or social economics of the people that embody it. I ask that you keep in mind that each person, each community differs. Be the legislative dominant power that represents the people. On behalf of the many communities statewide, I implore you to consider the COVID-19 effects on the 2020 census data. Be mindful of the outliers in the data and the transitional migration of people during the pandemic when interpreting the results. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. And that is our last speaker who has signed up. I thank you all for your courtesy and kindness and respecting everyone's opportunity and ability to come up and to speak to us. And we were able to hear from 31 speakers here within our 29 speakers within our 2-hour time frame. So thank you all very much for that. Senator Kennedy, did you have anything?
No, just thank you for coming. I want to thank the folks in my hometown. I'm honored to represent you in this district, and we appreciate your input tonight. And with that, our joint meeting and hearing will be adjourned.